right, our partner quiz over segment addition and midpoint. I'm going to work every problem from this quiz, and you just fast forward to a certain problem if you only need to see one of them. All right, we are starting with 1A. We are given a number line, and they are asking, when they say find dB, they're asking for, so we are finding the distance from D to B. What I taught my students is every single time you subtract the coordinates. To find distance, it's like finding how different are D and B, how far apart are they. So you may subtract them every time. You can take the absolute value if you need to. For example, at the end, when you subtract them, if you get a negative number, you just make it positive. So 13 minus negative 38 gives you 51. The distance from D to B is 51 units. Okay, number 1, part B. Find the midpoint of BE. That is asking what point is exactly in the middle, is the same distance from B as it is from E. Whenever we find midpoints, every time you find a midpoint, you add up the endpoint and divide by 2. That is how you find a midpoint. You add up the endpoints and you divide by 2. Don't find the length and divide by 2 because that will give you a length. We want to find a coordinate, a point, a location. So negative 38 plus 57. Make sure you press enter in your calculator. Divided by 2. Enter. You should get 9.5. So that's how you find a midpoint. You add up the endpoints and divide by 2. If you are going to put that in your calculator, you need to either press enter or you put parentheses around the numerator, around what you're adding. Number 2, all right. B is between A and C. So I'm going to sketch a quick picture of that AC. I'm going to put B somewhere between there. AB is 1/2 of BC. So I already know my picture is not drawn to scale, but that's okay. AC is 18. Find those values. Here's what we're not going to do. 18 divided by 2 and put 9 and 9. That is what we're not going to do because AC is 18. You can't plug that in there. You can't plug that in and just take 1/2 of 18. So be careful on these problems. We are not dividing by 2 here. All right. AB is 1/2 of BC. So what I taught my students to do is to break this down and instead of 1/2, write it as like a ratio of 1 to 2. It's like 1 part to 2 parts. It's a 1 to 2 ratio. AB is 1/2 of BC. So the AB gets the 1 and the BC gets the 2 out of the 1/2. 1 over 2. Now, those are not distances. The distance from A to B is not 1 and likewise with the 2. So to remind myself that they're a ratio, I'm going to attach an X to them. So AB gets 1 part and BC gets 2 parts. Picture not drawn to scale. The whole thing, AC, is 18. So this is a classic part plus part equals whole problem. 3x equals 18. See how we're going to end up dividing by 3, not dividing by 2. X is 6. So that means the one AB, that's 1x, that one is 6. And this one's 2x. 2 times 6. So that one is 12. So the answers were 6 and 12. How did we get that? We split up the 1/2 into a 1 to 2 ratio. There were 3 parts total, not 2 parts. Number 3, part A was just a vocab word. Points B, E, and D are collinear. Yay for reviewing previous units. Okay, B. AF is 28. DF is 15. Find AB. This is a classic segment addition problem where you're using a takeaway to find the missing segment. We know the whole thing's 28. We've used up 15. So you can think of it as a subtraction problem. 28 minus 15. If you really wanted to, you could do part plus part equals whole, and then you could subtract 15. But you will get 13 for 3B. Okay, now let's do 3C. If CD is 4x, DE is 5x, and CE is 54. We tried to make the algebra really easy for you guys so that you could show us that you know the geometry of it. D is not a midpoint, so we're not going to use the fact that we think it's in the middle. We are going to use the segment addition definition. Part plus part equals whole. CD plus DE equals CE. We combine like terms, divide by 9, and then don't do this on the test. Don't get so excited. X is 6, you write 6 and you move on to the next problem. Do not do that. We need to make sure we're thorough and we follow through. So we got X is 6, but we wanted CD. CD is 4 times X, so it's 4 times 6. The answer is 24. Number 4, M is the midpoint of AB. AM is 6X and AB is 10X plus 12. Solve for X. Okay, so we definitely draw a diagram. We draw segment AB, check. We plot point M at the midpoint, and we put tick marks around it to show that it is the midpoint. You can earn partial credit on these tests. Just make sure you're drawing thorough pictures and you're marking your pictures. AM is 6X and AB is 10X plus 12. So here are the things we are not going to do. We are not going to add these together, and we are not going to set these equal to each other. We know that AM is the half. Sometimes I label them, I put H for half, and AB is the whole. And we know a half sure doesn't equal a whole, but we need to set them equal so we can solve for X. So we have two choices. We can double the half, we can double this guy, or we can half the whole. Double the half for half the whole. The choice is yours. I'm going to double the half. Why not? If AM is 6X and MB is 6X. So now we know AB, the whole, is double it. It's 12X equals 10X plus 12. This is the whole, and this is the whole. You're allowed to set a whole equal to a whole. Subtract 10X from both sides. 2X equals 12. X is 6. And once you know X is 6, you do a simple substitution. 10 times 6 plus 12. The distance from A to B is 72. Number 5, some more segment addition, making sure you understand. RT is 3X plus 22. That is the whole thing. And we need to solve for X. So we're going to do our part plus part equals whole. We're going to do our segment addition postulate. 2X plus 3 plus 4X minus 2 equals the whole thing. Now, I'm going to do this one slower than normal because I think if you got this one wrong, it was because you were doing some algebra mistakes, not geometry mistakes. So, I see a lot of students sometimes draw that. That is the equal sign. Do not cross that line unless you're doing the opposite of what's being done to the part of the equation. First, I'm going to combine like terms. I see a 2X and a 4X. They're on the same side of the equation. So I'm going to combine them. I see a 3 and a negative 2. They're on the same side of the equation. So I'm going to combine them. Now I have 6X plus 1 equals 3X plus 22. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. So now I'm moving across the equal sign, so that's why I need to do the opposite. 6X equals 3X plus 21, because we had 22 minus 1. I need to move the 3X over. So I'm going to subtract 3X from both sides. 3X equals 21. The opposite of multiplying by 3 is dividing by 3. So X is 7. And you can plug that back in, and you get 26 for ST. Number 6, are you ready? G, H, and I are collinear points with coordinates. All right, I better draw a number line. I know that G is at negative 3. Check. I know H is at 10. Check. And then I know that the length of segment GI is 28. So I need to figure out where to put I. But I know if I begin at G and I travel 28, I will land at I. So think of, you're at G and you travel 28. Where would you land? So negative 3, go positive 28, add them together, you're going to land at 25. Now what a lot of people didn't think of is no one told us go right or go left. No one said you had to go right from G. It just said GI was 28. We totally could have gone to the left 28. And then we would land at a new I. And where would that be? If we're at negative 3 and we go to the left 28, so we're going negative, negative, more, 28 more, we would land at negative 31. Negative 3 plus negative 28. Okay, there are 2 landing spaces for I. It's asking us to find the distance from H to I. So, if I found the distance from here to here, 25 minus 10, I get 15. If I find the distance from H to this I, distance you always subtract. 10 minus negative 31, that's 10 plus 31, and you get 41. There were 2 answers. So to get full credit, you needed to put both answers to that problem. Number 7, this one's a weird one, huh? On a number line, we're going to draw another number line. Point R has a coordinate of 2. Point S has a coordinate of 6. Okay, check. A is the midpoint of RS. So I'm going to stop right there. A is the midpoint. How do I find the middle? Add them up and divide by 2. Add them up and divide by 2. 6 plus 2 is 8. 8 divided by 2. Okay, so the coordinate of A is 4. Check, I did that one. B is the midpoint of RA. So now I have to find the middle of RA. I add them up and divide by 2. 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So done. I did B. C is the midpoint of RB. Whoa, this is getting crazy. So I put C here. How do I find the midpoint? I add them up and divide by 2. 5 divided by 2. 2.5. That is the midpoint. Notice I'm not finding length. I'm not finding how long it is in dividing by 2. I'm finding a coordinate, a midpoint. All right, and last one. C is the midpoint of RC. So I need to find the middle of RC. How do I do it? I add up the end point and divide by 2. And you will get 2.25. Yay! Number 8. Y is between X and Z. We've got X, we've got Z, and we don't know where Y goes, but we know it's somewhere between X and Z. XY is 1/5 of XZ. So I'm going to take that fraction and I'm going to split it up into a 1:5 ratio. 1/5. So it's a 1:5 ratio. So XY gets 1 and XZ gets 5. Now because that's a ratio and it's not an actual value, an actual length, I always attach an extra. So XY gets 1 part and XZ gets 5 parts. 1 to 5, 1/5. Okay, let's stop right there. How could we represent YZ? If the whole segment is 5 parts and I've given 1 part away to XY, how many parts are left for YZ? 5 minus 1. So YZ gets 4 parts. So if you compare XY to the whole, it's a 1:5 ratio. If you compare XY to the other part, it's a 1:4 ratio. 1 plus 4 is 5. Anyway, YZ is 20. YZ is 20. Solve for XZ. So what I can do is I know that YZ represents 4 of my parts. Well, how much is each part? 20 equals 4. Divide by 4. That missing ratio number, the multiplier, is 5. So now I can plug it in anywhere I want. I can plug it in here, xy is 5. I could plug it in here. xz is 5 times 5. 25 was the answer. Last one. This showed up a lot on your homeworks and a couple of times in the lesson. Points B and C divide AB into the ratio of 8 to 6 to 3. Since we know that that is a ratio and not a length, we attach like a multiplier to them. We attach a variable to them, any variable you want. And we know the whole segment is 68. So part of part equals whole. So we got 14, 15, 17. 17x equals 68. Divide by 17. X is 4. And then we can plug it in anywhere we see x. So 8 times 4, 32. And then to find BD, we could add it up. 6, 7, 8, 9. BD is 9 parts. 9 times x. So then 9 times 4 is, of course, 36. All right, so every problem from the partner quiz has been worked. Make sure you study this and know how to do these for the test.